Flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meeting Act Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which any business affecting the interest as discussed or is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Augusta, Branchville, Lafayette, Sussex post offices, and notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, and the clerk of the boroughs of Branchville and Sussex, and the townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Wantage. Mission statement. High Point Regional High School is in partnership with staff, family, and community is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society.
Oath of office?
But, excuse me, we have one business before we do the other votes. Leanne, can I ask you to leave so we can talk behind your back?
Absolutely.
Used to it, administrator, you know.
Should I shut the door?
Yes, please.
Do we have this still on video?
Well,
Okay.
which,
We are in
You know,
public.
you're in a public session, I'm not even, well,
that's fine. She could have stayed, I guess, but she gave us the option to
okay,
just,
okay.
because based on what we learned in the article in the New Jersey Herald about the potential conflict of interest, does anybody feel that, want to discuss it? Or does anybody feel we should take another vote?
I think it's fine, I don't think it's gonna interrupt business at all.
I think there's very little that there would have a connection to
Then.
the teacher, to Ben, if I can say his name here. And, you know, and again, she said she hasn't even had any contact with him there. It just, I think he'd have more of an issue than her. So
I don't think it would have changed my vote.
No, I think we're good.
But we don't need to, I'm sorry,
School Board Association say anything about it or no?
no, it's just a conflict that she would have to avoid.
Okay.
So I'm going to renominate her again, not that necessary, but renominate her. Does anybody second the nomination?
Well, we'll have to.
We don't have to second. Okay, you want to vote for it? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Could you please bring it back in?
Absolutely.
I'm welcome back in.
You
I'm not gonna
are.
get throw tomatoes at me.
Nope.
Thank you.
That happens in about an hour.
All right.
First off, you should know that after much heated debate, we've decided that we should stay on. Thank you for giving us that option.
Absolutely.
All right, then administer a vote. Jim?
Administering oath of office. I found that the most efficient way to do this, if you three new board members would like to stand and read it together. Anyone can start off.
There you go.
Patricia
Joseph
Mann,
Carrazza,
do solemnly swear or
that I will
affirm
support
that I will support the
United States,
and the Constitution
Constitution
of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the government established in the United States and this state, under the authority of the people, so help me God.
I, Joseph Carrazza,
Yep.
do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19:4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A:12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities. So help me God.
Congratulations and thank you. Everyone has 2 copies. If you would sign both and return one to me. Thank you very much. The next item is the Code of Ethics. Each year, we're required as a board to review the Code of Ethics for board members, and we do that at a public meeting. The board did that this year at a public meeting, and Mrs. Anderson suggested that each board member read them one at a time. We did that in public session during a meeting this year, and went very well. So I distributed each new member 2 copies, and if you could please, at your leisure, study those or read those and sign them and return 1 copy.
Aren't we doing the training next month too?
And we are doing
We
the
are doing
training on it next month, May 17th.
We have a copy of the agenda, right?
And there's a copy in the agenda as well. All right,
All right,
good, thank you.
okay, you want to do the roll call?
Roll call for the oath of, for the code of ethics.
Yep.
Oh, for everybody, hello. Mr. Rancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Rangi,
Present.
Mrs. Anderson,
Present.
Mr. Dunn.
Here.
Ms. Smith and Ms. Nugent, do you prefer Ms., Mrs., Miss?
I'm fine with it.
Ms., okay, Ms., I'll leave it Ms. Ms. Smith is
Here.
here, Mr. Caraza,
Present.
Ms. Nugent.
Here.
Ms. Sedona.
Here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
Dr. Ripley,
Here.
thank you.
Okay, no, seeing that we have a quorum, does anybody want to make a motion to go into executive session?
I
Second. Who second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing no opposed, we'll go into executive session. We'll return to public session. First item is unfinished business. I'd like to mention that in our last meeting, when we selected 3 new board members, subsequently one of the board members alerted us that there was a potential conflict that she did not tell us about at the meeting because she wasn't aware of it. She did alert us the next day. Today, we reconsidered her nomination, and after discussing with her the conflict and considering it, we nominated her, unanimously reappointed her to a position, which she didn't have to allow us to do by law. Once we appointed her, she could have stayed in the position, but she was kind enough to allow us. And so, Leanne, thank you very much. Welcome 3 of you to the board.
Yes, welcome.
With that, we start with the approval of the minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, regular meeting minutes, executive session minutes for March 19th, and regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes for April 16th? Motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Rancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Rangi,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Abstain.
Mr. Caraza,
Abstain.
Ms. Nugent,
Abstain.
Mr. Dona,
Yes.
and Mr. Keough.
Yes. We're now going to start the public comment section. In accordance with the open public, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for the interruption. Can I just request an amendment to our procedures? Our student council leader has 4 AP exams that she is fastidiously studying for, and we'd like to give her the chance to perhaps go first, if that's okay with the board.
I don't see anybody who opposes, please.
I'm sorry for the late request.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So recently, Student Council had our first ever Easter Bunny fundraiser, in which the Student Council got to cut out paper eggs during lunch, and then we sold them for $1 during midday lunch. And the students and faculty who decided to buy an egg put it in an Easter basket for either Mr. Talman, Mr. Van Orden, Ms. Lee, or Big Al. And the winner, Big Al this year, had to wear a bunny costume around school the day before break. And it was really just a lot of fun. The students and faculty took lots of pictures, and I'm sure you guys have seen them around. And overall, Student Council was able to raise $45 for this fundraiser, and we plan on doing that next year. And and are also looking to a turkey costume fundraiser for Thanksgiving time in the upcoming year. In addition to this, for the end of year events, we're considering a powder puff football game in the spring due to the fall cancellation one, and this would go in addition to the spring pep rally, and leading up to the spring pep rally, we would have our annual Spirit Week. And that's basically a sum up for student council right now, but I was also asked to talk about National Honor Society, because we have our annual blood drive coming up on May 20th. That will take place in our East Gymnasium, and we really just want to encourage everyone to come out because it's a great cause, and sometimes we forget that it's really important to donate blood, and a lot of people rely on that every day. And anyone 16 and up can donate. 16 and 17-year-olds need parent consent. But if you have any questions about it or want to contact the NHS officer in charge, my name is Mary Kennedy, and I have her email for you guys. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, without further ado, we'll return to the public comment section. Agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we will open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should state his or her name and an address and the agenda item they're addressing. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by myself. We'll limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. I ask you please be respectful and mindful of your comments. With that,
I will. Appeals Governor 98 Emerald Road wanted. I will exceed your time. I hope you will bear with me. I promise to make it worth your time. HPRHS Nix. A couple of years ago when I was in high school, I wasn't always the best student. The subject didn't interest me. I just didn't apply myself. I got a report card with 5 A's and 2 E's on it. The principal even made one of my teachers submit a written explanation how this could possibly happen. Yes, I was a very top math student in the high school. One of them, very. I was also up there in the sciences. I studied 3 foreign languages in high school, Spanish, German, and English. And I basically flunked all 3. When the German class 1 was ending, Fräulein Goldberg made me an offer I couldn't refuse. If I wasn't taking German 2, she gave me a D. I took her D and ran. I did letter and track. I spent most of my time with the Civil Air Patrol. One of my biggest regrets is that I never did learn how to speak and read German. But then my grandmother was Bohemian, or spoke Bohemian, and I never learned how to speak it. My father and my mother both spoke English, and to this day, I still have a major problem trying to use the English language. In the Air Force, we had about 20 student pilots in the German Air Force in training with us. My Ich spreche Deutsch Nix did not impress them. The German language is a very important language in both business and the sciences. Please immediately fully instate the German language program at High Point. Make your cuts elsewhere. Second, assume the article in today's paper is correct. The article totally infuriated me. The first thing a High Point should be doing is to encourage its students so as to build good character in citizens, not destroy it. I personally would like to thank and congratulate Nicholas Southall and his family for speaking out and questioning what's going on. It's his right under our Constitution. If as a country we are ever going to solve our problems, we're in dire need of more good citizens to question what's going on. It was not, quote, disrespectful, unquote, for Nicholas to question Ripley's pay. Nor was it proper for Nicholas to approach this board. It is his constitutional right. If Seamus Campbell, Aldo Dino, I'm sorry for bad pronouncing, and indirectly Scott Ripley did anything to discourage Nicholas Southard from exercising his constitutional rights, then I am calling on them to immediately and unconditionally resign. If they don't immediately resign, this board must immediately investigate this extremely important matter. If it is found that these High Point officials or anyone else tried to discourage Nicholas Southwark or any other student from exercising their constitutional rights, then this board must immediately terminate those High Point officials for cause. Again, Nicholas, thank you. Keep up the good work. Last but not least, High Point's budget. I'm in an embarrassing position of having offered a lot of information and then not having the time yet to review all the information. I've been working on a major project and I finally mailed out 5 letters this morning. If even one of the 5 letters gets any results, the Sussex County taxpayers should be very happy. Obviously, one or more other people won't be. I did get to spend a couple hours today looking at High Point's proposed budget. Obviously, our taxpayers are taxed out and we cannot afford their proposed $280,000 tax increase. This board has to find some way to reduce its spending. A good start would be Mr. Ripley's obscene salary. The student numbers do not agree with the numbers that I received from the New Jersey Department of Ed, but that's for another day. I did note that the budget shows receiving 3 fewer students this year, but a tuition increase of $115,000. Is this possibly a contradiction? Then I noticed High Point is paying $1,955,000 in tuition for students who attend other schools. That's almost 10% of High Point's budget. Then I noticed that the private school placement had, for 2017, 7 students at a cost of $7,978,000, or $113,000 per student. For 2018, had 10 students at a cost of $1,086,000, or $108,000 per student. Then for 2019, there's 0 students at a cost of $1,003,000. Now I had a problem. When I went to school, we were taught division by 0 was undefined. Your proposed, could somebody explain this $1,003,000 expenditure to me? You're proposing to spend $1,003,000 on 0 students. At the same time, you're increasing our taxes by $280,000. I highly recommend that you postpone your budget hearing until somebody verifies the accuracy of the information contained in your budget. Also, I'd like to receive a copy of your corrected budget. What are we paying the county executives to do? What are we paying our staff to do? Please start your budget.
Dr. Shaw. Anybody else?
Evening. My name is Nick Souther, Chief Medley in Sussex. I am a sophomore here at High Point. I'm here tonight to represent the students, parents, taxpayers, and supporters who oppose removing the German program from the world language curriculum. At the March Board of Education meeting, I notified the members of the board that I was circulating a petition against studying German. Since then, I've obtained a grand total of 474 supporter signatures. I even gained support all the way from Waldorf, Germany. 10 students that stayed with High Point families last October signed the petition as did their teacher. Last week, I sent Mr. Kilo, Mr. Minkowitz, and Dr. Ripley the original and the copies of the petition along with an accompanying letter. Be a certified member. As of yesterday, I can confirm that each was received by their respective party. To the members of the board, I would like to reiterate how important keeping the German program is to students. With today's emphasis on STEM fields, and since German is the language most closely connected to areas such as engineering, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, and sciences, it makes much sense that college-bound students learn this language over any other in order to better conceptualize their area of study and improve the chances of career advancement. We live in a society rich in culture. High Point is knowingly preventing students from a diverse education, which is the exact opposite of High Point's mission statement. Also, please understand that we are not interested in online German courses or part-time German program. We are respectfully requesting that the German program be fully funded as it has been since its inception in the 1980s. I recently requested and received copies of documents from July 2018 through present. Budget transfers and check register from the board administrator, Mr. Minkowitz. I noticed that August 2018, High Point wrote a check to Linkit for $11,696. Linkit is an analytical testing software that High Point uses to evaluate student learning in the current curriculum. We take a test at the beginning of the year, math and English, and to see how much we already know, and then at the end of the year, to see how much we have learned. From what I understand, the administration is supposed to alter or reassess the curriculum based on our results and difference in scores. But as a student, I don't see the curriculum has changed. Also, are High Point administrators receiving merit pay or incentives based on the data received from Linkit? At the beginning of the year, I asked one of my teachers if I could opt out of taking the test since it was not graded. I was told that it is a mandatory test. Are we taking this test as a tool to benefit our education, experience, or to hand out bonuses? Secondly, why was a $12,500 payment made to the nonprofit organization Pass It Along in September of last year? I know we have a Pass It Along club here at High Point, but I can't understand why a large amount of money was paid to them. Lastly, I presented the board members with 3 questions at March's board meeting. I requested that the questions be answered by tonight. Although I was told that the board is not obligated to answer them, I was hoping for some resolution. Number 1, how did school officials come to the decision to dismiss our heritage teacher, Mr. Berger, and the decision to cut the German curriculum? Number 2, what alternative options, if any, were explored before coming to the decision to cut the German curriculum? And number 3, what is the total amount of students scheduled to take German courses for the 2019-20 school year? Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Sharon Richardo, 1 Matthew Drive, Wantage. I'm sorry, what was that amount we paid? $125,000 to pass it along?
Pass It Along was $12,500.
Why are we giving Pass It Along a check? Does anyone know? No? Is any research going to go into these allegations that a student was reported in the Herald about? Are any of you interested in finding out the truth there?
Yes, I'm interested.
So are we. We are also interested in knowing where the money's going. This money that the taxpayers are paying are to educate our children. Online courses, has anyone on this board taken an online course? You're an adult, Mr. Wayne, correct? How old are they? How old are you? 16 years old. Told to go online and take the course. So he's going to go to High Point High School all day long, do after curriculum activities, and then go home and study German? Would any of you ask your children to do that? Dr. Ripley, would you? Not thinking. That's not an acceptable answer. The way you're treating the students of this school is unacceptable. Our tax dollars go to pay to educate them. And why we're paying Pass It Along and this other company obscene amount of money is beyond me. I hope this board does the right thing and does an investigation into this. Stop the rubber stamping.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Trollo, and I reside at 175 Madison Reservoir Ave, Rancho, New Jersey. My son, Dylan Halmick, is presently a junior here at High Point. My son's academic plan was to come to High Point and study 4 years of Italian. During his freshman year, the Italian teacher retired. There was a parent meeting, which I attended. The school could not find a suitable replacement. Therefore, the Italian program was cut. Many parents, including myself, were angry and expressed their concerns. Instead of 4 consecutive years of a language, now my son was looking at 3. The Italian students were thrown under the bus.
had to choose different language. He is currently in his second year of German. And the school is about to throw those students along with my son under the bus again. He is looking to apply to colleges that are very competitive. When his transcripts are compared to other children who have equally high GPAs, equally high SATs, and we go to look at their studies in foreign language, and they have 3 to 4 consecutive years, and my sons will show 1 year of Italian, 2 years of German, and his 4th year, Spanish 1. This is of no fault of my son. He works very hard to be the student that he is, and he does this with a chronic disease. And as a parent, it should be unexpected to think that your child's going to attend high school and they won't be able to take 4 years consecutive of foreign language. This is wrong. This is wrong what's been done to my son. And if any of you are parents, if your son or daughter was a good student looking to go to a good school, and by no fault of their own, their transcript is going to look like they couldn't decide what they wanted to do and switched all foreign languages, you'd be upset too. I'm here to say to do what is right. Phase out the program gradually. Let the upperclassmen finish out their studies. Thank you.
I'm from Sussex. I'm also a junior. They're junior from. I'm a junior here, and the one thing I remember coming into freshman is I have all these opportunities. Now, during my year, we lost, like people said, in ALS, we lost Italian, we was working and finding anyone to replace them. Now it was in German, it was on languages. What's left? It's basically Spanish and Italian. Like our schools, our high schools have more options than us for language. And also, we're also considered one of the best schools in New Jersey when we're written, not that chat. And it's kind of sad as a junior, I was one freshman, or anyone below me had the opportunity that I had. Because I remember, when I first came here, Mr. Carlson said we have so many opportunities. They're here for us, you guys have so much to offer us for our future and for, our bigger future. And it's sad because every time I go up next year, we see next year, we're losing half stuff that I had before and stuff that I want to take next year. German, our class will take it on. Pass on also receive, like we said, you have to go on a non-profit, a check, which is considered is non-profit. So it should be a check, it's non-profit. Technically it's legal because it should have no income or no profit unless it's donation. That's kind of very interesting because that's a check, and I know from my business classes and all the stuff I take here that non-profit is only for donations. It's not right what you guys are doing. You should reconsider asking to bring back your program and give back to the students that we need more languages and more opportunities like I have. Thank you.
Sorry, I usually have something prepared, but Amber Simon's Wantage. I just don't understand this whole German teacher taking it away because it seems to me if there's a budget issue, I don't know why you're choosing to cut something that's going to affect the kids. These kids that have come forward, they're very passionate. This is something that's not just going to affect them in high school. Obviously, it's something that's going to affect them going forward. And right under your nose, there's other things that can be cut. I served on the Sussex Wantage Board for 3 years, and I know that we did anything in our power to not take away from the classroom, and this is exactly what's been done here. I spoke in the past, a couple board meetings ago, about the same issue, and it's on the agenda tonight to assign the head of security some additional duties. I think it's quite obvious, I could see right through that. We're trying to show that he can earn his keep somehow because he's been lacking in the past. But right under your nose, you have something that you can cut because it's a made-up position. I feel that this position of head of security was created for one person and one person only, because if you look back at the job description that was created way back when it was, there was pretty much only one person who was going to fit that description, and that's who your head of security is. He's been absent when he was needed here. He was absent for the BB gun incident, which I brought up the last time. He was lurking around someone's house up in Montague with still no explanation as to what was going on there, yet it's on the agenda to assign him more duties when it seems to me he can't even meet fulfilling the duties that he already has. So, do a little salary swap and maybe you'll be able to keep your German program if you would get rid of the head of security. Sussex Wantage has a head of security, it's called the middle school vice principal. We don't need to employ someone and give them another $60,000, $70,000 a year for some position that somebody else can do. We have state police here, we have other security guards, and it's just an unwarranted position. Security is absolutely important, but I think that it's being handled just fine by state police and other security guards. And you'd be able to assign that position to another administrator to save the district money, and you'd be able to keep your German program, and I think everybody would be happy. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, seeing nobody else speaking, we're going to close the public hearing section and move on to presentations.
What was that kid's name?
Oh, I'm sorry, public hearing on the budget, I'm sorry. Closing public comments, we'll do the public hearing on the budget. Excuse me.
In the past, sometimes we've talked about they should ask their questions during public comments, but it's really, this is the presentation, so when they see something that they didn't know to ask about, it's appropriate for them to ask us questions at this point, rather than just shut them down. After you're done with the presentation, rather than shut them down, they should ask that before, but they didn't have the information.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say that we are about students. We are committed to the well-being of children. We have been committed to the well-being of children for as long as I've been here, for 22 years. Everything we do here is to affirm and to love children. Unfortunately, economics demand the allocation of scarce resources. Difficult decisions need to be made. How we make those decisions, up to this point, has been desperately attempting to maintain the integrity of our curriculum and our staffing. We in no way dissuade children from speaking. We in no way ever. We want children to be involved. When we had children here, we had 2 young men here interview last month for a position for the board. We meet with children, we welcome their the expression of their civic rights and responsibilities. We will never dissuade a child from speaking with an administrator, board of education, a teacher, or anyone. We are about loving kids. Now that always doesn't come across in this forum. It is a difficult forum. It is a forum in which many questions cannot be answered, whether they be personnel or otherwise. And so what happens is, board members sometimes have to sit here recognizing that they can't answer all questions. And that's very difficult for board members. And what it also does is it lends people to say, gee, why don't they answer that? Because they're unable to. Those of you who are on boards understand that it's an incredible amount of time and an incredible commitment. And the reason why we're all here tonight is because we love kids, we love our community, and we are committed to the well-being of children in this institution. And this institution. Excuse me. We had like all districts, a preliminary hearing in March, or a preliminary presentation of the budget numbers. we communicated some of those decisions, I communicated some of those decisions in early March when those decisions unfortunately had to be made. Subsequent to that meeting, there have things that have occurred since March's meeting until today. So there are two things that were originally planned that are not on my presentation, which I'm about to begin, that are not listed here, but I want to bring up now before I begin. Unfortunately, we've had to cut over $800,000 in the last 12 months. $800,000. Other costs increase. It is incredibly difficult. At no decision that is made in this budget, in this institution, is ever made without considering the ramifications on children. It is our singular focus. And so having heard these things and new information coming in the last month, this budget will include a German teacher so that all students currently taking German and all students who at High Point Regional High School who wish to remain in their German studies will be able to do so. The determination to unfortunately reduce our paraprofessionals, which was communicated. I met with a group of parents for about 2.5 hours. At the beginning of that meeting, I'm quite sure, like some of you here this evening, they were very passionate and sometimes angry. Because the amount of information that we're all privy to is limited, just like anything else in our lives. And we can't always explain the full breadth of that information. But during that 2.5 hours with these passionate parents, these wonderful community members, we came to an understanding that I thought we made great strides in understanding each other, and hopefully to some degree, inspiring their trust in who we are as educators and who we are as an institution. Subsequent to that meeting, as I told them, we will do everything we can to reevaluate that decision, understanding that the impact at this point, since we have cut millions of dollars from our tax levy over the last 6 years, there's no fluff left in the budget. It has been reduced more than any other school district, more than any other township in the county. We never read about that, we never hear about that, even though it is communicated every single year. You've never read about that.
Earnings got more.
No, sir. I don't want to contend, that's not my point. This county has been ravaged by a decision among the state to reduce state aid. Every single district has been devastated by the amount of money that's been reduced. Every one. And every single district has to make difficult decisions, most of whom are raising their tax levy to well above 2%. Well above 2%. Nevertheless, back to the paraprofessionals before I go on to that, I'm sorry. That was a meaningful meeting. I'm hopeful it was for you, because it was for me. It was an opportunity to hear the concerns of the parents, and for them to get a context of the issues with which we contend. Subsequent to that meeting, something arose that we did not anticipate, and those paraprofessionals were returned full-time, with full-time status with their benefits. So those two decisions that were mostly discussed in March, we've had the ability to address. So before I go into the budget, I wanted to bring that to your attention. I am sorry for those of you who have had to deal with, as I've said to the parents and the paras, I'm sorry that you've had to deal with the weight of not knowing if you're going to have the courses that you wanted, not knowing if you're going to have the teachers you wanted, not knowing if you're going to have benefits or the paras for your children. It's very difficult. And when you have to cut over $800,000 in less than a year, that's a staggering amount of money. And because we've reduced the tax levy so significantly and our budget so significantly over the last 6 years, it makes for difficult decisions. That's why economics is the allocation of scarce resources. And I just wanted to say that so that you're all aware that those decisions were made, and hopefully that gives some peace to some of you. So I want to talk about the fiscal 2020, which begins on July 1st. We are committed, one of our board goals every single year is a commitment to fiscal responsibility. Irrespective of what is reported and irrespective of what you hear, this board has fastidiously considered fiscal responsibility and the tax levy to our community. As you see there, state aid has been reduced by $837,000. Nevertheless, the general fund, our operating budget, has been reduced by $1.1 million, or 4.8%. However, the tax levy, as you can see there, is rising 1.97%. As you're all likely aware, there is a cap of that increase of 2%. Most districts in the county are well in excess of 2%. Now that doesn't, you can say, well, I don't care about all them, and I understand that. I care about my taxes. I understand that. And that's why this board and this administration has taken great pains to do everything they could to ensure that the tax levy has been lowered to a more reasonable rate. Here is a pie graph breakdown of the expenses. As you can see, obviously, as in any other institution, or at least educational institution, salaries and benefits are the bulk of the percentage of the pie. Significant. So as our goal over the 7 years during which the state will reduce our aid by at least $4 million, our goal is to manage those cuts through retirements and everything else that we can reduce that will have the least impact on children. All right, budget and appropriations. Where's the money coming? Where's the money? All right, if you see here, general fund, Fund 11 and 12. This does not include maintenance and capital reserve. This was what the operating budget was last year. This is what it is this year, a reduction of 1.1 million. Special revenue, or Fund 20, are federal grants. Last year we received $327,000 in federal grants. This year we anticipate a reduction of almost $50,000. And therefore, that gives us a total budget of $22 million, inclusive of the federal grants, listen, everything comes from taxes, right? Those come from our federal taxes, but they are federal grant money that they are not included in your tax bill. All right, so that is the reduction of our budget this year. But because the state has reduced their aid by $830,000 in a year, it was very difficult to get the tax levy to 0 or below. Believe me, every effort was made. And there were a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions, a lot of sleepless nights, because this institution is completely committed to children and to fiscal responsibility. Revenues. Fund balance. What this is at the end of the year, if you end up with any money left, that either goes to capital reserve, meaning if the roof caves in, you got to fix it. That's capital reserve, capital monies. Maintenance reserve, that's to maintain the facilities, or it goes back for tax relief. Last year, that is what remained. This year, we're proposing that it'll end up being this, $15,000. I will tell you, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life. My wife has never seen that movie for some reason, even though for me it's one of the greatest movies ever made. There was a scene when they have a bank run and there's $2 left at the end of the day. That's our goal for this year. $2 at the end of the day, at the end of the year, because it is so tight. That's how responsible we are with the funds that we receive through taxes from this community. The tax levy, as you see, as we've discussed, in this budget would increase $280,000. We have tuition there, Montague tuition, we have miscellaneous, other extraordinary aid, both of which, all of which, obviously, they're not in red, they're increasing. State aid, choice aid, as we see, a reduction this year of $478,000. SEMI, which is special education, Medicare. Jim, what's the I? Initiative?
It's initiative, yes, for Medicare families.
That's a small amount of money. And then capital maintenance reserve, you see this is what we're going to put into it this year. To some degree, you understand this is a problem, right? Because we have to maintain the facilities, because this community is proud of our facilities. We should be. It's gorgeous. It is a beautiful, functioning, 60-year-old building, not 60.
53.
50-plus-year-old building that must be maintained. But for us, because we're trying to be, and to demonstrate fiscal responsibility, we're not going to put any money in capital or maintenance reserve. Makes me nervous. However, we're already increasing $280,000. So me being nervous is not the issue. The issue is the tax levy must be affirmed. All right, the general fund, as we just discussed, being reduced by 4.8%. Special fund revenue, that was what we saw previously. Federal grant monies, we're anticipating reduced by 8.5% for a total proposed budget of $22 million, as I said, a reduction from the prior year. Now here is where many of you will either see a reduction or an increase. This does not indicate that, by the way. This is indicating the number of students and what will be paid. Now, as it says on the bottom, the allocations are calculated by the DOE, enrollment information, and for assessed value in each township. So when the assessed value drops, the tax levy is impacted. When the assessed value or the number of students, that's the impact on the tax levy. Also, the amount of money that the budget either rises, increases, or decreases. This is what we anticipate. Please understand this is preliminary. We anticipate these numbers for each municipality. We have this.
Nothing's bad.
Thanks. My fault. This is this year's, and this is a 5-year look back, based upon an imaginary $200,000 assessed home. Over the last 5 years, total, we've reduced the tax bill in the aggregate by $929. This year, in the aggregate, it's going to be increased by $140. So as you see, we anticipate Frankfort and Wantage experiencing a relative decrease, while Branchville, Lafayette, and Sussex will experience a relative increase, particularly Sussex, who can least accommodate that $154. We are not unaware of that.
Now, Dr. Ripley, can I just add?
Please.
One thought that I always have. That decrease over the 5 years, or that increase over the 1 year, is only the high point portion of your school tax.
Right. when you get your tax bill, I look at it every year, right? It has an allocation for High Point, an allocation for the elementary school, and other allocations for the county. This is the impact of High Point's budget on your taxes. That is the proposed budget for fiscal 2020. Again, as I said, we listened to the input of students, of parents, of the people who attended the meetings. We always listen. In spite of the fact there are times when we sit here and we're unable to answer, we always listen. Some of the things that are reported are incredibly compelling and demand that we consider what was said, because it has impact on the lives of people. Some of the things that we hear, with all due respect, are not always true or accurate, but we can't go into the details as to why. We can't explain that. And that's the nature of it, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for other people, it's uncomfortable for me. I want to be able to explain things, but more often than not, we don't have that ability. And so while I stand here before you, likely making neither those who want the tax levy reduced, nor those who want more services happy, that's the balance of dealing with diminished resources. These are the decisions that were made, and this is the budget moving forward. Thank you for your attention.
If I may, two takeaways. If you remember on the one slide, 73% of the budget goes to payroll and benefits. And the second thing is the state fundamentally changed how we have to do business in the school systems up here in Sussex County and other way around the state. We're getting substantial aid cuts. We have people who need cost of living increases. Where does that money come from? It's got to come from somewhere. We've got any cut in aid is going to affect personnel. 73% chance it's going to affect personnel and benefits. We can't turn the heat off in the winter. We can't turn the air conditioning off in the fall and the spring. So at least probably more than 73%. But based on what we spend the money on, that's where it's got to go. So we've got to find a balance. And keep that in mind. Nobody wants to do anything to cut a class to hurt the students, or certainly not to hurt the livelihood of any of our teachers and administrators, because they're the backbone of the school. But difficult decisions have to be made. And these people spend a lot of their time volunteering to help make those tough decisions. But we gotta change fundamentally the way business is done up here, Sussex County, with the school system. Thank you for your time. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and move the vote on the budget, to vote on it now rather than later.
Excuse me, what about public comment?
Would you, Mr. Gephardt, would you like to make a comment on it? Yes, please.
Should be open to the floor for comment.
I apologize. I'm learning, still
That's
learning.
part of it here.
Sorry, I'm still learning.
Bill Gather wanted again the purpose of a public hearing on budget, so the public can make comments after they hear the presentation. I would request the board, before they let Mr. Griffin make a presentation, make waiters available for the people of the public. They're needed. Some of what said is correct, some of this is not correct. First, I advise the public, when schools do their calculations of taxes, they do it on the school year. Our tax bills are based on a calendar for tax year. Two totally different animals. The school budget has to be cut in half and spread over two years for the school taxes. Often, when the school rightly shows an increase, it actually goes down. Where the school rightfully shows a decrease, it actually goes up. So those numbers are misleading to the public because they're expecting to see on their tax bill what was on the screen. It ain't gonna happen. The other thing is, Mr. Ripley said, it's based on the assessed value of the town municipalities and the number of students. Correct or incorrect? When the state does the calculations for the percent shares, they look at last year's assessed value for the municipality this year's equalization ratio. Not the same calculation that the county uses for their taxes. There's two different calculations for that number. The numbers do not compare. The other thing is not the number of students in the school, it's the ratio of the grammar school and high school students. This is what, besides the equalization ratio, killing Branchville and Wantage this year and helping Sussex Borough. What happened in the Sussex Wantage district is somehow Wantage supposedly added 51 students this year and Sussex Borough went down 80. So Wantage picked up 2 percentage points in the percent share of the Sussex Wantage budget. Therefore, we went down the High Point's budget. But Sussex Borough is, loving the Sussex Wantage budget, and they're going to hate your budget. That's not the number of students, it's the ratio of high school, grammar school students. Big point I have is I found $1 million in your budget to do nothing. I think before you vote on this budget, you ought to find out where that $1 million is going. Is it a numerical order error in your budget, or is it $1 million slush fund for Mr. Ripley's salary? And if he's so concerned with our taxes, maybe he'll give that back his $30,000 increase. Thank you.
Mr. Gettler, can you tell me what that line item is that you're talking about? That's the million. What is that?
Is, let's see. Line number 190.
Does it have a title to it?
Sorry. 29,100 tuition to private schools for disabled with state aid. As I said, in 2017, you showed 7 students, 113,000 each. 2018, 10 students, 108,000. This year, you're showing 0 students, but you budgeted $1 million for it.
Exactly $1 million?
$1,003,499.
And you said the line item number was? You said
29.
29.
Jim,
291.
can we tell him the pass to the loan bill is for dues for the organization?
The newspapers the same way.
All right, Dawn's getting me the amount.
I don't know how you can vote on this budget until they clarify this $1 billion discrepancy. This is the budget as submitted to
Can
the
you
county.
explain that one for us?
You must be reading the schedule incorrectly, Mr. Gatlin. You're welcome to come in the office and I'll look over with you. The numbers of students for private schools has been sent to the county office.
You
Approved.
sent
Don't
me a
check
copy of the
it out.
budget and there it is.
Right, and we're looking at it, and there's a number of students in there, and it's the amount you have, $1 million. There's private school students.
Is that a 0? You folks wrote the budget. I didn't. It says 0. I can stare at you too.
Wow.
Trying to be polite, sir.
Send your flight to leave.
Mr. Gettler, that's rude.
All right, we're gonna say how wonderful the champions is.
You'll have to come in and.
No, I'm not coming into your office. You publicly let
No,
the people know.
this is correct, and it matches with our budget documents. These numbers are correct, they match with the budget documents. If you come in, I'll discuss it with you.
No. Send us publicly the information. Give it to the New Jersey Borough.
I have that look right.
Can we still comment?
Yes, please.
Sharon Richard at Wantage.
You have-
Thank you, Dr. Ripley, for your explanation. However, I'm having a hard time swallowing all that you said. If this board and this school is so people-orientated, I think as you put it, why were the aids and a program the first things that you went after? Why in November was a contract pushed through, knowing that these cuts were coming? I know you're not going to answer this, but this is how the public sees it. I know this is how I see it. In the future, I hope that this board is more responsible in contracts and raises, because we can't afford it. We're not Bergen County up here. Superintendents up here should not be making that much with all of those perks. And please stop telling the public you're people orientated and you're worried about their jobs and the increase of the cost of living when you yourself took what you took and you gave what you gave. We're all struggling out here. And if you want to see more people leave Sussex and Wantage, this is going to happen because we can't afford it anymore. Thank you. Plus, the raise you gave your teachers is under the county average. That's unfair. So please, you're not people oriented.
Hi, good evening, Ken Nuss. I'm speaking as a parent, not a board member where I am in Sussex Wantage. I just have a question with regards to the article that, and I don't think I'll answer it, but the article that was out today, I'd like to know how a 15-year-old can go for documents and 2 days later, the curriculum director is aware of it, whether it's true or not. When documents are open, you keep track on who's opening what and share that information to people. Like, you know, it's really eye-opening what's going on. And I hope the board makes decisions that are right. Sometimes they're not easy. We all know it's not easy all the time. But you know, it's disheartening to read some of the stuff that is out there. And just when you think things are quieting down, something else comes up. I just hope you guys, you know, do what's right in your heart and you know, really pay attention. You know, it shouldn't have gotten to the level that it did. You know, I want to commend you guys for doing what you did. Congratulations. Thank you.
Briefly, I would like to respond to the Oprah statement. We get a significant number of Oprah requests, and we have limited resources in the business office to be able to manage those, particularly during budget time. And when Oprah requests come in, we, the business administrator, myself, and frequently, if it's relevant, the director of curriculum, we essentially work on them together, or we share that responsibility depending upon what the Oprah request is about, or who has the ability on that particular day. We are very responsive to Oprah requests, and we provide the information as quickly as possible. And we are very responsive to Oprah requests. We share that information, but I will tell you that Oprah requests are frequently quite daunting, and when we receive the number that we have received, it can be very difficult. So what we do is we share the weight of those responsibilities between the administrators in the business office so as to be able to respond in a timely manner.
Do we have any other comments on the budget?
Just to comment, Mr. Ripley, they're not responding to the request. As soon as I get the time, I will be filing a complaint with the Governor's Records Council against High School for failing to comply with the requirements of the law. Thank you.
Any other public comments on the budget? Seeing none, I'm going to correctly this time move on to presentations.
It won't go. It's, if you can tell them what it is.
All right, I'm going to, does anybody want to propose amending the agenda and to vote on the budget now?
I propose we move the budget item now.
Anybody second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Which item is it? What page is it on? 16? Number 6? Okay. Got it.
I can. Would you like me to? Okay. So, within the finance section, it is item 6 in the finance section. I'm going to read it in its entirety. Be it resolved that the board approves the adoption of the school budget for the 2019-2020 school year as follows. Travel and related expense reimbursement for 2019-2020. Whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education recognizes the school staff and board members will incur travel expenses related to and within the scope of their current responsibilities and for travel that promotes the delivery of instruction or furthers the efficient operation of the school district. And whereas NJAC as listed requires board members to receive approval of these expenses by a majority of the full voting membership of the board, and staff members to receive prior approval of these expenses by the superintendent of schools and a majority of the full voting membership of the board. And whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education may establish for regular district business travel only an annual school year threshold of $1,500 per staff member, where prior board approval shall not be required unless this annual threshold for a staff member is exceeded in a given school year. And whereas travel and related expenses not in compliance with NJSC as listed, but deemed by the High Point Regional High School Board of Education to be necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel and reimbursement forms. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves all travel not in compliance with NJAC as listed as being necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel and reimbursement forms. And be it further resolved, the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves travel and related expense reimbursements in accordance with NJAC as listed to a maximum expenditure of $75,000 for all staff and board members. Adoption of budget 2019 to 2020. Be it resolved that the budget be approved for the 2019-2020 school year using the 2019-2020 state aid figures, and the secretary to the High Point Regional High School Board of Education be authorized to submit the following budget to the executive county of schools, the superintendent of schools. Total expenditures as listed with a total of $22,244,764, less anticipated revenues as listed with a total of $7,707,318. Finally, taxes to be raised as listed, and the total thereof is $14,537,446. Be it resolved that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves a levy of general fund taxes for the 2019-2020 school budget to be $14,537,446. Be it further resolved that a public hearing was held in the cafeteria annex at High Point Regional High School, 299 Pigeon Hill Road, Sussex, New Jersey, on April 30th, 2019, approximately 7 p.m. for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the budget for the 2019-2020 school year. Seeking a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the budget item? Comments, discussion? I'd like to make a comment to that. I intend to vote for the budget. I was, however, a member of a contingent of people that felt very strongly that we needed to contain costs even further than what the budget originally, as was presented.
I am now the only member of that contingent left on the board. So I will say that having seen the work that has been put into this budget, the difficulty in making the decisions about program cuts, personnel issues, and understanding that the state has really yanked the rug out from underneath us and left us in a difficult position of defending something that we really shouldn't have to defend. I've come around and been convinced that this is about a good compromise of maintaining the integrity of the programs we have, but not passing undue pain along to my constituents and the community and taxpayers. So that's what I intend to do. That's my comments.
Any further comments? Seeing no further comments, take the roll call.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Frangi.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
That was done, right?
That was done, right?
Mr. Dunn. Ms. Smith.
Same.
Mr. Carrasco.
Abstain.
Ms. Nugent.
Abstain.
Mr. Dona.
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Seeing that it is passed, we're going to go back to the regular agenda. And thank you for bearing with us on this more difficult one and for my being new on running the meetings. So I think we're going to go to presentations this time. And I think somebody's been very patient for the HPRHS who's going to give us a presentation. Thank you, Paula.
No problem, thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the new members. I'd like to welcome all the old members. Thank you for everything you do. I have a statement from Mr. Coach Percy, the golf coach. On behalf of the High Point Golf Program, we would like to thank the Honorable Carmen A. Ferrante, Mr. Carmen Ferrante Jr. and Mr. Carl Hensel for their donation to the golf program. Our players have benefited from over 80 golf clubs, 7 golf bags, and other miscellaneous golf items. So we'd like to put that on the record. As far as the HPA is concerned, we have been continuing talks with our superintendent, and we met with John Talamay, our principal, and we're on the same page. We understand that our cell phones have become an interesting obstacle, and we'll be working together to come to an agreement as to how to handle those things. It's amazing how technology has surpassed us, and yet we have surpassed technology. You know, good teaching is good teaching. We don't always need everything available out there, because we do have it. So the BYOD, we are reconsidering as a group, and we like to be partners with that. We want to partner with you also, because we need everybody's help in this, because nobody's an expert. Everybody thinks they're an expert, but nobody's an expert. Trust me. I'm still learning from my 8-year-old twins. They can't live without a, they can. Otherwise, that's all I have tonight, and thank you again for your commitment to education to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. All right. Next, we're going to Mr. Talamay.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new board members. First a chance to welcome you. Thank you for being willing to serve as part of the board. We look forward to working with you. I like, as you know, standing with my back to everybody, so I'll try to go back and forth. Just wanted to mention a little bit, we had a Stand Up Against Hate Symposium. Mr. Campbell's going to have some more pictures about that as well, but that symposium was on the 17th, was the day before break. And our students came around the concept of being agents of change and having a voice and using your voice. Stand against something that you didn't believe in. That symposium, just wanted to give a shout out. I don't know how many of them are here, but I think a couple of them have been here. To Mrs. Cordiola, Mrs. Hodges, Ms. Heather Strout, Ms. Carolyn Acker, Mr. Ian Ayers, Mr. Aaron Baker, Mr. Julie Clausen, Mr. Kevin Finland, Ms. Nene Finland, and Mrs. Aaron Myers. We coordinated this event. It took months and months in the planning and inspired many along the way. I've had a chance to see a lot of the events and our guest speakers that we had throughout the day, our students and student activities. It just was a phenomenal student-led, teacher-facilitated event that really had a great cause, so kudos to them. A couple other accomplishments along the way. We had our STEM NHS over the course of this month. Also includes business in that STEM acronym. We had over 60 students that were inducted to that honor society, so we're very proud of that. We had a dinner cruise, also on the 17th, where we sailed out to off Weehawken. Take our seniors around, those are not seniors around the harbor. They get a chance to see the Statue of Liberty, like literally almost where you can touch it. And for many of them, it's the first time, maybe the only time, that they will see that part of the world, of the country on the East Coast. So, 168 seniors that night, we had a great time. Got them all back, so thank you to Mrs. Imperial, Mrs. Moss, our two class advisors who coordinated that, a bunch of administrators and the staff as well. Our deck nationals, they're returning right now. Paige McCarrick and Hope McGarrett are two students that were on the deck nationals, Mateo, and they're returning as we speak. So we'll be home pretty soon. They're ready to come back and tell us how well they did. Excellent opportunities they had at networking while they're out there as well. So they're returning tonight. Some more art and photography awards that come our way that you may have heard about already. We had a congressional art competition that many of our students, I want to make sure I read all the names to show them that had their work chosen to be part of that. Basically, it's an online voting system that runs between now and May 3rd. It's run through Carnegie Gottmeyer's office. He's the one that sponsors that. So we had several students that were part of Mrs. Shenice's digital photography classes. Sage Broussard, Madison Ball, Athena Kalos, Elise Keel, who's one of the students we talked about. She's about 5th or 6th photography award this year. Kylie Nipp, Abigail Lazier, Isabel Evans, Audrey Communion, and Zoe Tiger, all chosen for their. Now that it goes to the voting, so that's the masses, and also just a little bit about the ethics of voting, the civics requirement for that. So we're excited about those students and the opportunity to be part of that congressional art award moving forward. We also had some great news as we had our Washington, D.C. Chamber Singers and Jazz Ensemble trip. We had a couple parents that were here for the monitors and there as well. They had a fantastic time. They had a little bit of rain on Friday. They got drenched, and some of the Boy Scouts had to kind of develop their skills with the rest of the group and tell them how they can kind of work through these situations. They had a great weather the rest of the time. Had a fantastic experience. And our Chamber Singers were chosen for a gold rating, which is a high tier accomplishment. And our Jazz Ensemble was chosen for a silver rating, which is just a little bit of a notch below, but an excellent rating as well. And they had an excellent experience with many other students that were down there, part of the Wall Strides Music Festival. So thank you to the board for your support of that program, and our students that went. Thank you to Mr. Riccardi, Mrs. Martin, Mr. Slaney, Mr. Carroll, coordinating that trip. And spent a lot of time with the students over the weekend. They did a fantastic job. Also, we just got the notification from Mrs. Riccardi and Mrs. Martin that we had some all-state nominations. All-state mixed choir, Sam Moore, Lindsay Polkstanis, and Samantha Perez. All-state treble choir, Alexis Forward. So we had 4 students chosen for that honor. Sammy Perez was ranked 1st in the state for all of the 2. I say that's pretty good. She's a freshman. Sammy Moore ranked 6th for bass 2. Mom, kudos. Don't ask about bass 2 and that other people can get into the discussion. Lindsay Polkstanis ranked 13th for soprano 2. So we had 3 students that were chosen that were ranked in the top 15 in the state of New Jersey. All-state mixed choir will perform at AC and NJ PAC in November, and all-state treble choir will perform at NJ PAC in February. So kudos to our music program and the accolades that continue to flow in there. We also had 3 students that were chosen for the Center Prevention's Choose to Be Free, Alcohol-Free PSA Award. That was Ray K. Milano, Tyler Ringo, and Morgan Small. I had a chance to go to a town hall meeting with them in Newton before spring break. They are recognized for their social media PSA. That was a video that was developed in the tech classroom in the hallway. Again, award-winning program, an award-winning video that was chosen. And that will play as part of Center Prevention's all months activities throughout their website. So our students, again, are being promoted out there as well. And last but not least, let's promote the blood drive that Mrs. Weiss spoke about earlier, the Student Council / NHS report. That blood drive is on the 20th. And as always, we were asking for volunteers. So anybody here is willing to aid to volunteer, please consider that an opportunity that's on main here at Apple. Any questions on that? Mr. Stewart, anybody else? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You mentioned
Next, curriculum and instruction, Mr. Campbell.
this is in.
This just in the text are Coach Cosentino and the track team. They're undefeated, and today they defeated Pakistan. And by doing so, they have won the conference championship, and that is the first conference championship for the boys track and field team in our school's history. So we're extremely proud and excited for them. Good. I told young Johnny Koppelmeyer today that he needs to hang a banner so that he can repeat with his father. So our girls are also undefeated. I don't know if they've clinched their title yet or not. They may have, so I don't want to be dismissive of that, but it's the first ever for the boys. I do have a presentation, but I would like to reiterate a few things Dr. Ripley touched on this evening. I was hired by High Point in 1993, and I was hired to teach civics and government. I had an internship in the United States Senate, a political science background, and for 21 years I taught civics. And now that I'm in administration, I miss students. Kids are great, it's why we got into education. And when I see the opportunity to encourage students to have a voice, to attend meetings, to speak up, as 3 of our students did so eloquently this evening, I don't view it as something to be tolerated, but something to be celebrated, to be promoted, to be championed. Last month when we met, I met with parents and students in advance of the meeting, supported them and prepared them, and tried to assist them in making sure they were comfortable in their presentations. They expressed gratitude and thanks to me, and that was fulfilling. When I was a civics teacher, I required my students to come to board meetings in this room. Actually, I believe we were in that room. It was a passion of mine that our students do what 3 of our students did this evening. They speak publicly, they ask people in positions of authority tough questions, and that they engage in civic activity. We didn't just register a vote, not that that's unimportant. I taught my students how to file an OPA request. And as a class, we filed OPA requests, and we received that information back. I requested the superintendent as a teacher to come into the classroom and present the budget to the students and answer their tough questions. And I even signed student petitions. And I got in trouble for it. But I was so driven to encourage that adult-like approach that I signed the petition, I put in parentheses, neutral on topic, supporting approach. I would like to applaud the 3 students who presented this evening. It is an honor to have the opportunity to support our young men and women in civic engagement. If my efforts in recent weeks have not been received or welcomed or taken in that manner, I offer the most sincere apology. I would never, ever, ever, as I said, we do not tolerate civic engagement. We champion it, we celebrate it, and we want more of it. I'm actually disappointed there were 3 students to speak tonight. I know I've made these board meetings quite lengthy because I invite students all the time to come here and to present and to advocate and to perform. So I'm thankful that that exists. I hope we have more of it. And I hope that my efforts to support those students in the future are received in genuine nature that they were offered. As far as our German program goes, it is heartbreaking to tell our students and their parents that a curricular program that they are passionate about will not be available to them. As Dr. Ripley presented, there are fiscal constraints that have led us to that decision. We are not eliminating German, let me be clear. We are sunsetting German, and there is a significant distinction. On April 9th, I mailed a letter home to the parents of all students currently enrolled in German. And in that letter, I explained that we are very hopeful to have a teacher and we have advertised for a teacher, and we hope that the applicants who have applied are well qualified, well suited, and it is our hope and our goal that those applicants will be hired and employed, one of them, and that all students at High Point who are in German 1 will have an in-seat German experience for German 2, we hope for German 3, and we hope for German 4. Now, I communicated that, and I reiterated that here this evening. If we are unable to make that hire, we will address that situation, and I'm hopeful that we can. Obviously, the most optimum experience to receive a curriculum is by a certified teacher in seat in a traditional setting, and we very much hope that we can do that. As far as virtual courses, we are proud of the fact that we pay for and support all of our students to take virtually any language offered through our EduSeer program. We have students who can take Mandarin, they can take Japanese, and we will support them through an independent study. Next year, if a 9th grader comes into High Point and they wish to take German, we will pay for it and support them. It is very difficult to learn a world language virtually, but it does happen for some with success, and we will support and continue to support those who attempt that. So thank you for allowing me to offer those comments. To our presentation. Our performing arts students recently in the nation's capital, we take our students all over. I believe that this board supports a higher level of funding for trips than I would guess any school district in our region. To bring our kids to the nation's capital is an honor. It's hard to go from a cathedral in the nation's capital to Big Al. But this is our school spirit, and he was a great sport about it, and it was a very nice event. Have to remember that Mrs. Walton is here, and I want to thank her sincerely. She's an organizational machine. High Point increased its AP testing 300% in recent years. Mrs. Walton is in charge of every aspect of that. She's a phenomenal asset, and I want to thank her for organizing that and administering that. We will offer AP tests in May in 25 subjects. It's an incredible amount of work. Our teachers and students are ferociously working to prepare for those assessments, so we're excited about that coming up in May. I mentioned this last month very quickly to the public. May 21st and May 22nd are our 2 dates. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will take their standardized assessments. This was a 3-week process just 5 years ago. We now have all of it down to 2 days. That limited disruption to our curriculum is obviously quite welcome. This afternoon I met with 14 members of the assessment committee, because last week I met with the curriculum committee and asked them for their support to modify how we administer in-house exams. Whether they're quarterlies or midterms or finals, our staff and our administration both agree that we need a bit more formality and structure in those assessments. I'm not going to give you all the details because on Wednesday, Mr. Talway and I are going to present this to the entire staff, and we hope that what we present is well received and that our in-house assessments are authentic and meaningful and serve the purpose of what the assessment committee established as their goals. Stand Up Against Hate Symposium, arguably the finest day at High Point to the board, to the media. We encourage you next year to come and participate. It was phenomenal. It started out on Wednesday night where we had a free showing of the award-winning documentary, is it Liana or Liana?
It's Leon.
It's Liana. Okay, thank you, Liana. Liana is an award-winning documentary about refugees from Southern Africa, and not only did the students view the film, but afterwards our teachers arranged an opportunity for our students to Skype with the producer of this award-winning documentary. So it was a great experience. The next day, the media center was from 7 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon, abuzz with, there were writing, every type of artistic expression. I sat in on a session which was how to have difficult conversations. And Mrs. Fenlon was teaching students about how you discuss perhaps politics at Thanksgiving. So it was everything from having a tough conversation to a refugee crisis, to global warming, to political discourse. And it was an absolute phenomenal day. I may have missed Mr. Fenlon, who has his hand in almost everything we do, but those 8 educators are second to none and made this an amazing day. So thank you to them. Very quickly, if any members of the community are here and have a trade or a profession, on May 24th, we're having a career day. We hope to have 50, 60, 70 representatives from any type of career. And we're inviting guests to come in and not have to do a presentation, but to simply man a booth and be open to conversation with students about how did you get to that career, an informal conversation between our students and career representatives. So we're excited about that. And last but not least, our social media footprint. We're doing tremendous things with our sending districts. Our STEM program went down to the Lawrence School and worked on some remote ollies with their second graders, which is really nice to see our students working with their students. I'm ecstatic that High Point will be hosting I Can Bike August 5th to August 9th this summer. When you watch the videos about this program, you're not surprised to hear that members of the community who volunteer, there's a waiting list every year. When facilities run this for multiple years, it's hard to get a spot volunteering because the rewards are that great. I'm trying to get my entire family to do it. They only take approximately 90 volunteers. I'm sure it will fill up. The program is for persons with disabilities who have never ridden a bike, over a 5-day program, and during the 5 days, participants are there for 90 minutes. And the rear wheel of the bike is tapered each day. So it's like a rolling pin, and it goes from this wide to this wide. By the 5th day, it's a big celebration because young men and women who have never ridden a bike ride a bike. I am pursuing local fundraising as well as room within our budget to ensure that High Point students are able to participate in this at no cost. So I'm working with Mrs. Smith, and we're trying to find some, make sure it's something that our students can have some success with should they be interested. For a long time, we did not have students that were going to Harvard and Yale and West Point and Duke. I believe Duke is ranked top 7 or 8 as the most competitive university in the world. Brandon LaRue will take his talents to Durham. And we're thrilled. We love all our students. When someone gets into Harvard or Duke or West Point, we're truly very, very excited. Congratulations to him, to his teachers, and to Mr. Gardner. Mr. Fenlon, my phone rings about once a week for a school district that wants to learn about our social media ambassadors. For his efforts, he was recognized by WSUS as the Teacher of the Month, and the NJEA, the New Jersey Education Association, their monthly magazine, did a spotlight article on him and his students. So we're proud that he continues to get so much deserving recognition. His social media ambassadors are in hot demand. They've gone out to community organizations and presented. Here they are presenting to all of the school districts in the county. They're anti-bullying coordinators. On the left, Frankfort Township School had their students come here for a full day of training. The list of groups that want these students to go to their school and their organization is greater than we can accommodate, so we're quite flattered. Woodburn Park has, tally is 400 trees accurate?
404.
Okay, 404 trees were planted. Our technology teachers and our science teachers have recently coordinated with the Wallkill Valley Rivershed organization And what these trees do is they beautify the park, but of course they also help with avoiding runoff or, I can't think of the word. Erosion.
There it is.
Okay. So, also, not in the photo, Mr. Talon, I brought them coffee and donuts, I think, so it was a really beautiful day, and I believe Mr. Baker was the one who championed this. Last but not least, I said that the symposium was perhaps the nicest thing we've done. I think the most heartwarming, beautiful thing that this school has done this year or in recent years is the quiet, loving, dignified efforts of Ms. Patricia Pyatt, who has started a food pantry and has asked all staff and students, whenever they're able, whenever they go shopping, to bring in food. We have members of our community who are financially in distress, and they come to school oftentimes without money or without food, and in a loving, communal atmosphere, her room has become a place to serve those students. So, Ms. Pyatt, we are quite thankful for your activity. Ms. Osario has also been a tremendous asset to her, and we're proud of her. The picture there is the football team packing up
Easter spring break packets.
Spring break packets. But it's providing service to those in need is something we're super proud of. So, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next item, annual appointments, adoptions, and designations. I'm going to move items 1 through 11 together. Do I have a
Second.
I need a motion.
You need the rest.
I need a motion.
I move.
I second.
Any comments? Seeing no comments?
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
All except I abstain from number 10.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donner?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do the curriculum, instruction, and technology. Items 1, 2, and 3, the board accepts the faculty attendance rate, the student attendance rate, and the suspension reports for the month of March. I'm going to move items 4 through 7. 4 is that we approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report from March 19th through April 30th, 2019. 5 is that we approve the field trips listed on the attached roster of curricular and student activities. 6 is that we approve the professional development activities listed on the attachment A6. And 7 is that we approve the graduation date for the class of 2019 to be confirmed officially for Tuesday, June 18, 2019, beginning at 6 p.m. So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Seeing no comments?
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Abstain from 4, yes to the rest.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Abstain from 4, yes to the rest.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, personnel. I'm going to move the first 4 items individually, so we have on each of those. Item 1 is recommended by the superintendent of the Board of Education accepts with regret the retirement notification of Lori Ray, bus driver, effective July 1st, 2019. Make a motion, give me a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I'm going to let you say something, definitely. Lori Ray is like one of these phenomenal bus drivers. You don't ever meet her or know her as somebody in the building. But she drove my kids home after school, my son in particular, with his crazy hooligan friends to my house every day after school. She screamed at them from the time they got on the bus till the time they got off the bus. But every day they got up and said, "Goodbye, Miss Ray." She's like, "I'll see you tomorrow." And then every day she just was a love. She could just do this, and she's like such a sweet person. And I think her son is here. I'm not saying that because I saw you, Curtis, but hi. Tell her I said nice things about her.
She talked about your son all the time.
Well stated.
Oh my gosh, just the best. That's my comment. You know.
I just would like to say congratulations to a tremendous human being and asset to the district. We're getting into a situation in the world where legislators continue to create codes and laws that make bus driving almost impossible. And we have some people here who have been here a long time, who are exceptional at what they do. They're deeply committed to children in the district, and Ms. Ray is foremost among them. We will miss her tremendously. I will miss her. She is a dignified, gracious woman who I have a great deal of respect for, not least of which she was overwhelmingly successful in the most important job of her life, raising her phenomenal children. And so congratulations, Ms. Ray. We will very much miss you.
Roll call, please. Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Crossan?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Item 2 is recommended by the Superintendent of the Board of Education accepts with regret the retirement notification of Candace Horner, Administrative Assistant to the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, effective July 1st, 2019. I make the motion seeking a second.
Second?
Comments on this one?
I'm going to speak a couple times here, so it'll be one. Anyway, she has been a tremendous asset to me personally. She has been a
It's got him on timer.
She has
That's what he's
been a
laughing
high
at.
point for quite some time and has done a tremendous job. She is incredibly intelligent and a tremendous part of our team in the board office. I will personally miss her. I adore her, and I wish her nothing but congratulations and the best. She was there for me during some difficult times, perhaps maybe the only person for a while, and I will never forget her, and I just want to say congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to echo Dr. Ripley's sentiments. The last 4 years, I don't know if I could have made that transition without her support. She's a lovely, lovely person, wonderful mother, good friend, and a great employee. So we wish her the best and thank her for being a great employee.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Crossan?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Item 3 is recommended by the Superintendent that the Board of Education accepts with regret the retirement notification of Jacqueline Sutton, Teacher of Social Studies, effective July 1st, 2019. I make the motion seeking a second.
Second.
Yes. Jackie came to High Point as a freshman here the same year I started teaching here. So I've known her since she was in the 9th grade. And she also happened to be best buds with my not yet, but soon to be sister-in-law. So I've just known Jackie since growing up, her whole high school career. She's just nothing but smiles as a student here. Then she came to work here. You guys are going to give a better synopsis of how many years she's been here. She's had a lot of jobs. She ran the what we used to have called a vocational guidance center, where kids would go and learn about opportunities for occupations. She then studied her way through becoming a teacher. She got her teacher certification, became a social studies teacher, and I consider her the mother of the social studies department. You guys can all attest to that. She must have mothered you to death. One time I can remember this. She was picking at Eric Carlson's ear. She was, "Eric, you gotta take a bath better than this." I mean, she was just a mother. But that was a teacher. But she also had rigor in her classroom. She made those kids read. Where a lot of teachers couldn't get their kids to do their reading, she could make them read. She could get them to read and focus on the material at hand. My daughter had her as a teacher and loved her. It's just, she's been here. She's been here like I was here. So she's just been here a long time, and this place is gonna miss her. So it's gonna be something definitely missing from the halls when Jackie's gone. And I think she's done a great job here. Also a good mom. Go ahead, your turn.
I just want to say congratulations, Jackie. I have known her for 22 years. We worked together. We worked very closely together as history teachers back in a different life. And she has been an asset to the institution and to this community and to the children of this community. To this day, she still maintains a passion for education and for children. Sometimes when people are nearing a certain point in their career, they sometimes are less passionate. Not her. She still maintains phenomenal relationships with her students and is a tremendous asset. Believe it or not, some of you have been around a long time. I adore you, Jackie, and I will miss you personally, and I will say that I love you. Congratulations. I'll miss you.
Mr. Carrazza.
Yes.
Ms. Nugent.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Moranti.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes.
And item 4, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts with regret the retirement notification of Edward Blevins, behavior specialist and teacher of the handicap, effective July 1st, 2019. I make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Mr. Blevins has been here for, I think, 18, 19, maybe 20 years as a teacher of special education. What was that?
Thank you.
Okay.
You came in with me.
A teacher of special education and currently a crisis counselor behaviors. He too is a tremendous asset who we cannot replace, and he has had a significant impact on a certain niche of students and the broader community. He will be missed. He is moving on to another. I'm sure he will be very successful, and he makes sure to let me know about that. And I think that he's a tremendous educator, and he'll be missed. Congratulations, Mr. Blevins.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Nugent.
Yes.
Ms. Tadona.
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Moranti.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Carrazza.
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move the remaining items 5, 6, and 7 together. 5 is approval of the salaries for certificated and non-certificated staff members for the 2018-2019 school year listed in attachment. 6, approval and reappointment. Approves the reappointment and salaries for certificated and non-certificated staff members for 2019-2020 school year as listed in the attachment. And item 7 is the approving the appointment of Alex Pacino as substitute teacher effective for the remainder of the 2018-2019 school year. Making the motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion on items 5, 6, or 7? Seeing none?
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Moranti.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Carrazza.
Yes.
Ms. Nugent.
Yes.
Mr. Dona.
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes. All right, it's curriculum. The first item is it's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the resignation of Erin Myers and Heather Stroud as co-advisors of the Calliope effective June 30th, 2019. We have a motion?
Move.
We have a second. Second. Any comments?
I have a question. Is Calliope going to be in existence, or is that?
That's still being considered.
Okay.
I have a comment. This breaks my heart.
Yes.
It
Yes.
absolutely does. They're amazing.
Yeah, they have been wildly successful and put out an award-winning student publication.
And this is one of those things that
That's what makes us
educators involved in it
Yes.
drive it. They drive it. They are phenoms at engaging the kids, getting them to participate in it. We've had situations where that's why I asked the question. We've had situations where other, what do we call them? Advisors, thank you. Advisors will leave a project because it's their time to be done. And the thing kind of falls apart because the new person in charge said, okay, I'll do it. It's not that they're not trying to do a good job, but they don't have that same connection with the kids, the same drive. So I feel really badly about this, and I can see they've done a phenomenal job. They put their time in. I'm not saying they should stick around, but it's a tough thing.
We can appoint them.
Yes, we can. Shh, don't say that. They have really been amazing, amazing.
I'm kidding.
Any other comments? Seeing no other comments, would you make a roll call?
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donna?
Yes.
Mr. Anklet?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Point number 2, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the following stipends for the athletic appointments for the 2018-2019 school year as listed on attachment C1. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments? Seeing no comment, roll call please.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donna?
Yes.
Mr. Anklet?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Item number 3, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education amend the dates for the summer physicals to reflect the dates as follows. Tuesday, June 25th, Thursday, June 27th. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Yeah.
There was a correction.
There was a correction.
So what is the actual
Which is
one?
the correct date?
June 25th and June 27th.
All right, mine's wrong.
Okay.
Yep, it's okay.
So it's Tuesday, June 25th, and Thursday, June 27th. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments?
It was formerly approved for 4 days, we reduced it to 6.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, roll call please.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donna?
Yes.
Mr. Anklet?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Policy back. Okay. In policy, move item 1 is recommended by the superintendent of the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following new regulation, Regulation 5330.04, administering an opioid antidote. I make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donna?
Yes.
Mr. Anklet?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, we move item 2, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the following revised policies, regulations. I'm not going to go through all of these individually. I will, however, if it's okay, Mr. Kehoe, I'm going to read the change in bylaw 0152.
Yes.
Board officers.
Yes, please.
So, the modified portion of bylaw 0152 for board officers reads as follows. The length of time any one member may serve in the position of board president shall be limited to 2 consecutive terms, beginning with the first January reorganization meeting election. This provision shall not limit a board member from serving as board president for future terms. However, there must be at least a 2-year, 24-month gap between service terms in the position of president. And that is the extent of the modification to the bylaw 0152 board officers. As far as the other policies and regulations listed at the top, I believe they're all mandated.
Yes.
Okay, and then the section at the bottom is purely a change to replace nomenclature.
Yes. Almost all of them are. There was only two which offered options, about which we discussed at length in the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting. I'll give you an example of the one that gave options. The rest was just changing nomenclature, as you so stated. The other one was regarding the practice in pre-season heat acclimation. Gave you options to either come up with your own plan on how to deal with that, or to accept the state's plan. We clearly accepted the state's plan. The rest are mandated and change of nomenclature as stated.
Okay, thank you. So I make the motion, and I'll seek a second on item 2.
Second?
Any discussion on any of those policy regulations, etc.? None?
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Negotiations, the HPAA contract comes up at the end of June. We've met now twice, I believe it is, with the HPAA representatives, exchanged initial talking points, and are scheduled to meet again in, I believe, 3 weeks to continue negotiations to get a new contract, hopefully before the end of the school year. Building and grounds, no, there's no items at this point in time. Finance.
Finance, okay. So I will move in finance items 1 through 5. 1, accepting the report of the Board Secretary, Business Administrator for the month of March 2019. 2, accepting the report of the Treasurer for the month of March 2019. 3, approving the report of transfers for the month of March 2019. 4, approving the payment of the attached schedule of audit bills dated April 30th, 2019. And item 5, accepting the agency account, adult education, athletic account, cafeteria account, principal, petty cash, school store, and student accounts for the month of March 2019. Making the motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion on items 1 through 5 in finance? Okay.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Abstain except for number 4, yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, we have moved item 6 formerly, so I will move 7, item 7 through 16, sorry, 19. Items 7 through 19 together. 7 is approving the following professional services for the 2019-2020 school year. As listed, 8 is authorizing the school business administrator board secretary to process line item transfers in compliance with the approval for S1701 and A3680 for the 2019-2020 school year. 9, authorizing the school business administrator board secretary to verify and pay bills as needed to protect the interests of the board between meetings. 10, I need to read number 10.
No.
10 is authorizing contracts with approved state contract vendors effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 school year as listed. 11, the recommendation of the board will not require the Willow Glen Academy and Lakeland Andover to apply for and receive funding for the New Jersey Child Nutrition Program or charge students for a reduced and or paid meal for any classified students from High Point for the 2019-2020 school year. 12 is recommended you approve the agreement between High Point Regional High School Board of Education and J&B Therapy to provide occupational, physical, and/or speech therapy for the 2019-2020 school year. 13 is approving the agreement between High Point Regional and Mary Helen Tifley to provide physical therapy services for 2019-2020 school year as listed. 14 is a resolution appointing fund commissioner to the school health insurance fund. Be it resolved that High Point Regional Board of Ed that Jim Minkwitz is hereby appointed as fund commissioner to the school health insurance fund effective July 1st, 2019 to represent the High Point Board of Education. 15 is a recommendation to approve the agreement with the Sussex County Educational Services Commission for ancillary educational services during the 2019-2020 school year. 16 is approving the following tuition contracts between High Point as the sending district and the district as listed. 17 is recommending to grant permission to the High Point Hoops Camp to host the non-affiliated co-ed basketball camp K through 4th grade, running July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of current year. And 18 is recommending to grant permission to the High Point Hoops Camp to host a non-affiliated co-ed basketball camp for grades 5 through 9, running June 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th for the current year. And lastly, item 19 is a recommendation to approve a settlement agreement in the matter of AA and MA versus High Point Regional Board of Education, and authorizes the board's administration and council to take all appropriate steps necessary to carry out the action of the board. Making the motion. Seeking a second. Any discussion on items was that 7 through 19? None.
Mr. Rancourt?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to run through the transportation, which is not nearly as tough as what you just did, Rand. Going to move items 1 through 11. The first is a joint transportation agreement for this year. It's just a bus route with Lake and Landover. Second one is another transportation contract for a charter school student. Third is a quoted contract for a class trip. Fourth is a bunch of quoted contracts for trips that are still to be taken in this school year. Number 6 is participation in joint transportation agreement between Sussex County Regional Transportation Cooperative and High Point. 5, 6, and 7 all deal with the cooperative, but for different reasons. Special ed students, public school, private school, charter school students, vocational school students, anticipate athletic and field trips. So that's what 5, 6, and 7 are. 8, this is about the fact that we provide a service and we are able to collect a 5% administrative fee. I want to say that out loud to the public because our transportation director and our transportation office runs a service where we can help other schools find their transportation, contract buses, get drivers, and then for that we collect a 5% fee on that, which goes into a fund called
Fund 50.
Fund 50. Sorry. And that fund is used to buy buses. So when we buy a bus at High Point Regional High School, we bought it from a savings account that did not cost you guys, taxpayers, any money. Somebody else's taxes, but not you guys. So I think that's an important thing to distinguish that we do. So that's number 8 with Walkill Valley, number 9 with Lafayette, number 10 with Sussex Wantage Regional, number 11 with Franklin Township. We have those agreements. So I'm moving items 1 through 11.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ankud?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. For legal, there is no legal items at this point in time. Correspondence, there's no correspondence at this time.
We did receive those.
Excuse me?
We, regarding the correspondence, we did receive the correspondence to which the young man referenced, but we did not receive that until today, so we did not have time to put it on the agenda.
Thank you, Fred. Miscellaneous, I want to point out the annual retirement recognition luncheon will be held Monday, June 17th at 12:30 p.m. in the media.
No.
Cafeteria, I'm sorry, cafeteria. Thank you.
Can I say something that's kind of miscellaneous, but it's really talking about the passing along program and money? Is it okay if I do this? I want to do it before public comments. I understand the concern when we see things on budgets that look like, what the heck are we spending money on? I get that. Half the time, I don't really understand it, but it's not my job to understand it. It's not your job to understand it either, but I understand questioning it. I have no problem with questioning it. The Pass It Along deal is a program that I've come to understand much better in the last year. That's a program that is particular to Sussex County. It exists nowhere else. We have had a Pass It Along club that I believe was started by Chris Henry. She ran it in our school. I don't know how it actually starts. But I think it started somewhere in Sparta. Some fabulous woman in Sparta started it. All right. So we run a club. For a long time, it was a volunteer position, and Chris Henry did a great job, and we did all kinds of cool stuff. Then it had run for so long, we had some money, so we paid for the position of advisor, which was going on. But what happened was Pass It Along has grown to a nonprofit, as you've explained. But a nonprofit does not mean that they don't need money, because they have to hire people, they have to rent space, they have to buy programs, they have to buy supplies. So they need cash to do this job. So what we have engaged in with Pass It Along, was this our second year of running the program with them?
No, this was our first.
Our first year. So this was just going to be the freshmen.
We had endeavored initially to have it be the all four, but the first year.
Freshmen.
Yes.
So we only did freshmen. So we had a character education program that was sponsored and run by, organized by teachers, facilitators came in and spoke to all of our freshman classes through the phys ed over the period of
health classes.
To the health classes. See how much I know about this? I need a lot of help. These people came in and worked with our kids. Now, Mr. Talame, was this something that you noted that these people came in and were a part of our curriculum for that week?
Yes.
Is that a good lawyer question? I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's something that we are feeling our character education, we need a little extra boost.
They had a team of 5 trainers who came in and met with all students on 3 separate occasions. And it's also part of our 9th grade transition. So as we're trying to work on building culture, it's been successful at a lot of schools, and it was successful with our 9th graders. And then we've also had Pass It Along work with our climate team and provide support and training for that endeavor.
And it affects our students. It affects our students. It's a positive experience for our students to be exposed to this training, to go through the workshops with the facilitators. And it's such a big deal that, and we don't have the money to do it as we did in this year. We are reducing that, but we cannot let it go. It's too important. So we are not spending that money that we spent this year. We've talked to Pass It Along, fabulous guy running the place, and he is willing to work with us with our budget to reduce our budget. We've talked at Chamber of Commerce meetings, where I got in trouble another time for talking about something. But at Chamber of Commerce meetings, the Sussex Wantage School District is gung-ho on doing this. They really want it in their building. They want their 7th and 8th graders to experience Pass It Along. So if it goes 7th and 8th in Sussex Wantage and then 9th here, we feel like we're really covering a really big group of kids that will benefit from this. So I think we're looking at, and hopefully we might be able to get it out of our budget, but if not, we're looking at maybe some fundraising throughout the community, a $5,000 bill for this. And it's $5,000 so well spent, and I don't want you to be upset that we're just throwing money down the toilet, because it's really for the kids. And a nonprofit does not mean that you just give them donations. A nonprofit means at the end of their fiscal year, they can't be giving out dividends to people, all right? Okay, good. Okay, that's all.
If I can add on to the pass along, I've never mentioned to anybody on the board here, but I've been associated with pass along for about 15 years. Helping support them, helping do it, because I saw what wonderful things they did with some of the young kids that I knew a while ago. I've stayed in touch with the kids, I've stayed in touch with Pass Along, and it's a fabulous program. It really a great supplement for young kids to help them build character, help them through tough times, and I can't say good enough about it. Whether it's in the school or not, it's a great program, and if you hear about it, you should support it. It does a phenomenal job with our youth in Sussex. So, that's with miscellaneous. Now we're going to get the public comment, name and address again, and I ask everybody, please be courteous. Just together.
Bill Gettler, Warners again, just to clarify it for me. We all know this public school funding is disaster. Started before the referee, so we get money on here. But they need the money, the illegal aliens, etc., and us citizens, we don't count. But this legislation, this is not my field of endeavor. Or however, the Department of Education started this 6, 7, 8 years ago. Mr. Rippey and Mr. Ward can't warn it this was coming. Maybe not the dollar amount. Even though the student enrollment from the taxing districts was taking a nosedive, they kept increasing our budget. So they shouldn't be putting the blame on other people. Yes, the state is totally screwing us, but they knew it was coming, and they totally failed to prepare for it. Now we bite the dust.
Any other public comments? Seeing no other public comments, move on to non-committee board member reports or comments.
I have one quick one. Seamus came to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast with me last week or 2 weeks ago and presented the career fair that we're going to do. And these people are so excited about it. I think we're going to have a really great career fair, and I couldn't do this without you. We couldn't do this without you. Do a great job.
And I met with Pass It Along today. They're actually quite involved with SCCC and with other organizations. I think that they're embracing that need that so many people in our community see, is that we need better linkage between high school and college with careers.
All right, nothing else on other business? Plenty of other business. I'm going to mention again, just 2 things that we talked about the last meeting. I'd like each of the committees to discuss a long-term planning committee, and maybe we can bring it up for a vote to decide next month, and also the possibility of whether or not it would be appropriate and to contribute to have somebody to the HPRHS coming to the committees where appropriate. So with those 2 items, if there's nothing else on other business, then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. Oh, I need a motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Thank you.